It's always great to get back into rally car, and at the moment, to be quite honest, I'm rallying at a different level.
Obviously, Aslam himself is enthusiastic and dynamic. He knows what he wants.
I always wanted to be a pilot, right from my childhood. There have been many times, when I had to put in a lot of work to make it work. But also, it's a question of being at the right place at the right time. As far as the aviation business is concerned, yes, it's been tough. There have been many times, when I had to put in a lot of work to make it work. But also, it's a question of being at the right place at the right time.
It is dawn here in Nairobi today, and hundreds of thousands of the city's inhabitants are on the move. This is Kenya's capital, the hub of East and Central Africa, a magnet since its early days for those seeking opportunities and a better life. But it is also a city of contrast, where the haves and have-nots rush past each other every day. In Loresho, a leafy suburb of Nairobi and home of Mohammed Aslam Khan, this aviator, rally driver and entrepreneur is beginning his day.
Most people are asleep at this time. All right, thanks a lot. Yes, okay, bye. Morning, Solomon. How are you? Sir. Everything okay?
Yes, sir. Thanks.
One of the biggest advantages of living in Kenya is I think we got beautiful properties and we have a lot of greenery around. This is greenery like this you won't find in places like London and Geneva and the rest. There's a big gap between those who have and those who haven't. And you find this, wherever there's a good residential area, you'll find slums close to it.
Aslam Khan clearly belongs to one of Nairobi's so-called haves. Add to this the allure of fast cars and jets, and this somewhat unassuming man would appear to have a larger-than-life story. But in many ways, his story is like that of Nairobi's, and like those who over the years have come, made their home here, and strive to achieve success in this competitive melting pot. At the turn of the last century, thousands of migrants from the Indian subcontinent came to settle on the east coast of Africa. Many were brought by the British as coolies to build the railway from Mombasa to Kampala, a venture the tabloids dubbed the lunatic line because of the cost and sheer scale of the project. Others, like Aslam's grandfather, got jobs associated with the railway or set up shop on various stages en route. The railway cost thousands of lives.
My grandfather came here with the railway police, and then he worked in Kenya for some time, and then went back to India, then it was, and got married and came back when my father was born in Mombasa.
Before embarking on the steep climb up the highlands of the Rift Valley, a depot was set up at a place the Maasai called Ewaso Nyaiberi, meaning place of cool waters. This depot quickly grew into what we now know as Nairobi, the capital city of Kenya. The population in 1906 was 10,512, and by the 1950s, the decade before independence, it had grown to about 300,000. As independence approached, Aslam's parents, like many Asian families, decided to move from their rural homes to the burgeoning capital city. Better education, security and opportunity, they believed, awaited them in Nairobi. Muzaffar Khan, a close friend of the family's, remembers the early days and recalls Aslam's father's entrepreneurial drive.
So his father was always a very shrewd businessman. He brought his own brothers on board, and they ran that business for many years before he relocated to Nairobi. The old man was really business-minded, and I think Aslam has picked that up from his late father.
Okay, Solomon, see you this evening, yeah? All right, thanks. Now, what time is it now? 8:30. I think we can try and go via Riverside Drive, or no, today let's take the shortcut. Let me show you a shortcut that might be useful to you in time to come. It cuts a lot of traffic. What we need is more bypasses. There's no need for all these trucks. A lot of the trucks are coming in from Mombasa. They should really be diverted from Athi River, taken all the way around. Most of them are bound for Uganda and Southern Sudan anyways. And that could cut down quite a lot of congestion which is coming into town. But for us, as we can't use helicopters, we just have to find some panya routes, as they call it, how to get to work without... Panya is basically, panya is the Swahili word for rat. So rats always find the quickest way to get around. Oh my God, they've closed this road. So that is the reason why there is such a big pileup. Can you let us through, please? Okay. Oh well. No, there's no Panya route anymore. Our Panya route has been closed.
The family settled in Eastleigh, a suburb in Nairobi, which the British allocated to the Asians. Many of the Asians, or Muhindis as they came to be known, were traders with a reputation for their hard work, sharp business acumen, and thrift.
I remember easily when I was a young man, that was another India or Pakistan. I mean, shops, hotels, barber shops, and you won't know that you're in Africa. But at that time, also the locals, the population was very little.
My earliest memories are when we moved into Eastleigh. It's actually very close to the Air Force base, and we could see the Air Force aircrafts landing at the time. They were not flats, but there would be rooms, but they would have a common area where everyone would get together.
Today, most of the Asians have moved out of Eastleigh and have been replaced by the Somalis and other communities seeking to get off the bottom rung of the ladder. It is an environment that poses numerous challenges for its inhabitants.
Hasa kwanza serikali kila siku wanachukua ahadi ya kutengeneza barabara, lakini hatujaona ile hatua ilichukuliwa na kutengeneza barabara.
Today, Nairobi's population stands at 3 million, and its citizens earn a living any and each way they can. In the place where Aslam's family grew up and went to school, new communities have settled.
We moved into the city council flats in Nagara, and that was close to Parkwood Primary School. That's why we went to Parkwood Primary School. There were facilities in school. There was hockey, there was football, and we used to have a daily physical education exercise as well. There was drama. There's quite a lot of activities in the school.
I know when one is lying, Linda.
I know when one is telling the truth.
Again.
Jamhuri High, we used to be called Duke of Gloucester. Before the name changed after independence, they named it Jamhuri High School. And I went there for my A-levels. Now, I got a very good result for my O-levels, and my dad actually wanted me to become a doctor or a lawyer. This was a very Asian thing at the time. The son, if you got a good result, you should become either a doctor or a lawyer. But I couldn't see myself being a doctor. I decided to go for engineering. But a break came through, An ad came out for the Air Force looking for pilots. I always wanted to be a pilot, right from my childhood. The training in the Air Force was amazing. The standards were very high. We had opportunities to do all kinds of flying, aerobatic flying and the rest. And after my training, I was actually selected to become a fighter pilot, which is something I always wanted to be. But unfortunately, what happened is first attempted coup in this country was actually in 1971, which was actually being planned by a group of army officers who were predominantly from the Kamba tribe. After that coup attempt, it was established that from the pilots that qualified, the ones that would go on to the fighter squadrons would be Kikuyus. So I was actually meant to go on to the fighter squadron, but not being a Kikuyu, I was transferred to the transport squadron, which actually upset me quite a lot at the time because, I was 71, I was 20 years of age. All that I wanted to do was just be a fighter pilot.
Disillusioned by not being able to be a Kenya Air Force fighter pilot, Aslam got his commercial license and began flying with the charter airlines, but had set up shop in a fast-growing region. At the same time, his brother Ashraf, an aeroplane engineer, suggested they buy a plane as the industry was quite literally taking off.
He bought a small trainer, Cessna 152, 5YBEC, which is still parked out here and still flying. So from that little aeroplane, it was just a journey going forward.
But in 1992, while on a routine flight, ferrying tourists to the world-renowned game reserve, the Masai Mara, tragedy struck. Ashraf's plane crashed and he died. Aslam had to pick up the pieces.
The turning point came in 92 when Ashraf had that accident, and basically I then had to make a decision. Do I continue with the business? Do I grow it? But Ashraf's kids were very young at the time.
My dad and him were in business together, and because our father passed away in a plane crash, which obviously was very sudden. He just left for work one day and never came home. And so my uncle took over his part of the business and gave us financial support, and in addition to that, obviously moral support.
Aslam threw himself into the business with gusto. While conflict and instability plagued her neighbors, Kenya was relatively stable and calm. Humanitarian and conflict management operations were therefore directed from Nairobi, flying relief food, medicine and equipment to far-flung areas, so the company, Aircraft Leasing Services, flying ever upwards.
It was just the time when the situation in Somalia erupted, and South Sudan, the conflicts were ongoing. And in '94, the situation in Rwanda started with the genocide. So this brought in a whole lot of relief business in the region. And being in aviation, I capitalized on it.
The company was headquartered at the bustling Wilson Airport in Nairobi, which is always a beehive of activity. 120,000 planes take off and land here every year. That is 13 planes an hour. It is a unique airport, dramatically situated a stone's throws from the city's central business district area.
Well, Wilson Airport is a center for general aviation activities in Kenya. From here, we are able to service clients in East Africa, in North Africa, in West Africa, and we have had operations as far as the Middle East.
Thank you for calling ALS. Good afternoon. Kindly hold on.
When you work at Wilson, you don't even think you are in Nairobi. It is a world of its own. The good thing, why a lot of these investors prefer Nairobi, you see, at least the infrastructure is good, the roads are good, the telephones are working. To get to Sudan, to get to Rwanda, to get to Burundi, to get to Congo. From Nairobi, all these agencies find it's very easier.
The aviation sector depends on the services that you have on the ground. You need airport infrastructure to adequately cater for your market. You need the regulation to support the business plans. So I think what we are seeing here in Kenya and in East Africa in general is that all these elements are coming together to support the aviation sector.
It didn't come online till I got back. And I switched it off 100 times. I took the SIM card in and out. I swapped the SIM cards around. Nothing happened.
It is here that Aslam, a jovial, energetic 60-year-old, rules his roost. His company, ALS, is a multifaceted enterprise. It reflects a Nairobi where ideas matter more than who one is or where one comes from.
Then when you load passengers, make sure that one at a time, okay?
Yes.
Before you came in, I checked the oil. The oil is fine, 3 each.
And the propeller blades are looking good.
Wow, it's water.
For Aslam to reach where he has reached, it's not been an easy run. It's a lot of work, hard work. So the poor man, when he looks at Aslam driving a Porsche car in a rally, he thinks, who is this Asian who is driving such a beautiful car? But the stereotype everywhere to say these are the people who are having the best times at our cost. But it's the population growth, unemployment. All this is causing these problems.
550 is a bit high, but I think that's one. Clear, right? It's clear. Left is clear. Okay.
I think indeed his ALS has been his brainchild. I mean, it started more than 20 years ago now. And for all these years, he has run it and built it up. Obviously, Aslam himself is enthusiastic and dynamic. He knows what he wants.
Has success come at a price? Has it made an ambitious boy growing up in East Lee forget his humble roots? Well, get him or his family in a rally car and the raw enjoyment and excitement and kinship of life together and on the go come through. The childlike thrill of fast cars and the challenge they pose to man and machine is reflected in the faces of the spectators.
I started rallying about 1970, it's about, good 40 years. Yeah, for this particular rally is very interesting. The first two stages are narrow and twisty in places. There's a variation of everything. There's a bit of rough, a little of straight runs, for high speed, and a bit of twist. Where's the hot water? This hot water, yeah. Normally we start off, we do this section. I think we do about 4 sections, we come back for service. Then we go for another 4, come back for service, and then go another 4.
On a cold morning after a hearty breakfast, Aslam, his nephew Imran, and co-driver Keith are off on a race. There's a sense of nervous anticipation in the car as they make their way to the start.
He's a bit of a loony. He's always had 9 points.
At the start, other teams chat and joke amongst themselves. There is a common sense of mutual respect and excitement amongst the competitors.
I started back in late 89, and I went for retire, but I'm back. Eventually I'm back. So it's something you can never stop.
It's my sport. Running is my sport. I like it. No, they warm up. They warm up.
Very well, and you?
Very good.
Very okay.
Looks nice.
Yeah, it does.
retired from racing for many years, Aslam is back. But he sees rallying differently these days.
It's always great to get back into rally car. And at the moment, to be quite honest, I'm rallying at a different level. I'm not trying to get any quicker or anything. I'm just driving to enjoy it. I think they've reduced it. People know about it.
It also allows him to be with his nieces and nephews, who he has mentored and supported over the years.
Good. Plan a whole year now. If you look at the history of Safari Rally brought a whole lot of, used to bring a lot of excitement to a whole lot of Kenyans during the Easter holidays. Those 4 days, I think for everybody used to be nothing but safaris.
It was my passion when I was young. I used to follow up rallying, especially Marlboro Rally, 5/5 Marlboro Rally. So I wanted to be a rally mechanic before, when I was young. This car took us time before it is the way it is, because we built it from the scratch. It's only the shell, put it together, me and my colleagues, and it took us time.
Rallying in Kenya has always held a particular magic for the wider public. Since the days of the Safari Rally, dubbed the world's toughest rally, the sport has brought entertainment to many corners and villages across the country.
And his Porsche running trouble-free, he had climbed up to an impressive 6th overall and was delighted with his progress.
And my early memories are, the rally used to be over 4 days. We used to spend all of our time at the city hall, where they would have a great big scoreboard. And all that you had was the radio, and on the radio you'd know the progress of how the cars were. How the cars were going.
For Aslam's family, racing cars runs in the blood, and the thrills of rallying in Kenya are plain to see.
From early days, over the school holidays, we used to all go to our garage in Naivasha. So that really put us on to know the cars well, and then we had the interest of the East African Safari then. Before that, it was the Coronation Safari before the Republic, which really geared us up to look forward and to see if we can do the event or we can participate in any way.
I always had the interest. As a child, I went to watch my dad and uncle do the big safari rally. And from there, from a very early age, I always had the interest and wanted to come back and do it myself. The biggest thing is your preparation. Cars should be excellent. Crew should be on top of that. Secondly, I think the mental approach to every event is very important because every event is unique and different. And rallying is a team sport, so your team has to be with you all the way. If one slip up, just like football, the whole team is let down. So I think everything matters in this sport.
Rallying proves that if you have the resources, you can do it. If in the past communities stayed apart, social circles in Nairobi show how different things are today.
There's quite a lot of mixture now. People are interacting quite a lot. There'll be a lot more of this happening. But looking back, into the 60s and 70s, everybody, it was very much of a grouping thing. Each community sort of kept very, very close to each other. I'll give you an example. This uncle of mine, Said, who had the rallying influence. He got married in the early 60s to a Gujarati woman, who was my aunt, and it wasn't taken, in fact, there was a big problem. So much so that it ended up in courts.
That was then. What about now? Has much changed in today's Nairobi? Have the old prejudices gone? What is life like today?
I grew up in the 80s and 90s, so it was a lot more segregated at that time. But now you see people from different cultures mixing all over the place.
Mix up. Yung mzungu ukiangalia kuna muhindi, sio? Sana sana hata unaonanga Mwafrika kuna Muhindi, kuna Mzungu. Unaona?
Well, there is a lot of mixing. That's why we find the most powerful person in the world is Obama.
Yeah, many people mixing together all now. Even the Africans, Indians, all together now.
Yeah, I can marry any kind of a girl.
Even in Africa?
African, Zungu, Chinese, any. Love matters.
Mixed marriages were rarely heard of in the past and appeared to be a sign of changing times today. Aslam himself married a lady from Greece despite a relatively orthodox Muslim upbringing. The marriage was brief, but the move was made.
Now that I look back at it, especially in the last 25 years, I put a lot of emphasis on business at the expense of the relationships. I do feel more comfortable when I'm home. I've not really looked after my house very well, but that's also because there hasn't been a permanent woman in this house.
It's another morning in Nairobi. These members of a Maasai market in downtown Nairobi are preparing for the tourists. Today's Nairobi is a bustling metropolis, widely known as the region's premier city. But it's not immune from shifts happening across the continent.
Since the last year, the business is very low. No tourists, there are very few. As I can say, it's 50-50 because of the fight which was at Somali, because of Al-Shabaab. Most of the tourists, they fear to come, but we are telling them to come.
It's very obvious because most of the industries and people can only access jobs around Nairobi. That's the only thing that has made most of the people to move from the rural to the urban. Yeah, just to come to Nairobi.
East Africa is the fastest growing region on the continent, where the challenges and opportunities continue to abound. For Aslam, who spends most of his time hopping from meeting to meeting, these are exciting times. But just what are his reflections on a life and the city he calls home?
Kenya is strategically very well positioned. Nairobi in particular, for aviation, is a great hub. Yes, geographical position connects North, South Africa, East, West. With the oil in South Sudan and now oil in Uganda, prospects of oil either in Lamu or in northeastern Kenya, I think they're going to be great opportunities. This should do. Put this in. This should do. I've got a couple of business meetings, so I'll need my suit and.
Aslam Khan is off again on another trip. There are new planes to be purchased, flight agreements to be drafted, and new markets as Africa opens up to global business. The green city in the sun still beckons people and investment. With so much still to do, will this rolling stone really slow down?
Next week. Personally, I think I'd like to slow down. Most definitely, I think I want to cut down my travel. Or if I do it, I'd much rather do it differently. Africa is going to need 2,000 aircrafts in the next 10 years. They're going to require 20,000 pilots. They're going to require 60,000 engineers. We have a perfect weather here. You can fly almost 365 days a year. The next growth area is Africa. Everybody's focus is in Africa.